this is actually one of my favorite animals on the whole thing. The kakapo, also known as the owl parrot, is the world's only flightless parrot. So this thing does have wings that look like they should be able to fly, but they don't. They instead just use their strong legs to hike around on the ground and then climb trees, where it then uses its wings to kind of parachute down whenever it jumps off of a tree and kind of glide where it wants to go. These things are native to New Zealand, where they are the heaviest parrot on Earth, weighing up to 8 pounds. What's really strange about them is they have this weird mating behavior where they only breed whenever this New Zealand rumi tree is masting, which means this tree is producing a large amount of fruit. What's bad about this is these rumi trees only mast every 2 to 4 years, which means these birds only breed every 2 to 4 years. Because of this, you can assume where its population is at. It is critically endangered because obviously it can't fly, and it's got one of the lowest reproduction rates of any bird. But these things are also cool because they are strictly nocturnal, only emerging at night to forage leaves, seeds, and fruit, as they are entirely herbivorous. There are only 250 of these birds remaining in the wild, which is insane. So they've tried to conserve these birds by taking them to predator-free islands and sanctuaries where they will hopefully repopulate. But there's this really funny video where a cameraman is filming this bird and it jumps on his head and starts trying to mate with the back of his head, and it's really funny, and that's like what this bird is mainly known for, is this specific video. Moving on to Indian balloon frog. So I chose this one strictly because it looks really funny. This is a weird looking frog from Southeast Asia called an Indian balloon frog. So whenever these things feel threatened, they will dramatically expand their lungs so that they appear larger to predators. But that's not something they have to deal with a whole lot because they spend most of their life underground and only emerge during monsoon season to breed. According to studies, these things range from different regions, where people like to say the southern population is apparently significantly uglier than the rest. And as you can see in this picture, I'm sure this one is probably from somewhere further south. The Saiga. We got Squidward sheep before GTA 6. This species of antelope looks extremely strange because of its massive hanging nose like Squidward. Its nose is not just great looking, but also filters out dust that gets kicked up by the herd. It warms freezing winter air that it breathes in, and it amplifies the male's mating snort sounds during its rut season. Once these animals were numbered over 1 million, but their entire species actually nearly went extinct just back in 2015 when this bacterial infection killed 200,000 of these things in days. Alright, do me a favor, pause the video right now and guess where this animal is from. I would have guessed it was somewhere in Africa, but this thing is actually found mainly in Russia, but also Kazakhstan and other areas in Mongolia. I also think this thing looks similar to that animal in Star Wars that like farts and looks back at Jar Jar in The Phantom Menace. You're welcome. I don't even know why I mentioned that, but I feel like you needed to hear it. The red-lipped batfish. So this fish is unique to the Galapagos Islands, where it is mainly known for its bright red lips. These lips are thought to help fish recognize each other, and they use it as a mating display that maybe helps attract females. What's kind of cool about like these red lips is that in scuba diving, something you learn is that the color red is one of the least visible colors as you get deeper underwater. So maybe they use this adaptation to attract mates, but then, you know, they're not as visible whenever they go deeper in the water because the color kind of fades away the deeper you go. They have very few natural predators because their flesh is actually poisonous and they're not good swimmers. They actually use their pectoral, pelvic, and anal fins to walk on the ocean floor. So these things are very strange. A fish that doesn't swim. It's almost like a bird that doesn't fly. Mexican mole lizard. So this looks like a fusion between an earthworm and a snake, but it has little T-Rex hands. This is a reptile that is bright pink and completely snake-like except for its clawed front arms. It spends almost its entire life underground in Baja California, where it uses its powerful digging arms to kind of swim through the sand. And then also what's crazy about this thing is whenever it feels threatened, its skin is segmented into rings. So so it can actually break off parts of its body whenever it gets grabbed by a predator. And it's so weird that there's this thing in Mexican folklore where people see this so rarely that sometimes they are mistaken for demonic worm witches that are used to spy on people and curse them. So that's fun. Tier 2, the maned wolf. So this is a tall, lanky canine from South America that is not a wolf, and it's not a fox, and it's actually not closely related to any canine species. It is the only species in its genus. This thing looks really strange. It kind of has like a humped back, kind of like a hyena, and then it has these long legs that make it perfect for seeing over the tall grasslands in South America where it lives. It stands at nearly 3 feet high at its shoulder, which is actually taller than gray wolves, and it has this reddish coat with a black mane that can be raised like a mohawk when it's threatened, just like cats do. It also has this strong smelling pee that is comparable to skunk spray that it uses to mark its territory. And what's different from this animal from other canines is that it hunts alone, and its diet has a significant amount of fruit. It especially likes eating this thing called a wolf apple. Like I said, these things hunt alone, and they're very solitary animals in the wild, but surprisingly, they're one of the few canine species that mate for life. So it's strange. They mate for life, and the male and female kind of operate in the same territory, but they aren't usually close together. Next, we have the wolverine frog. Also known as the hairy frog, this is a strange frog that lives in Central Africa that has this insane self-defense mechanism. So when these things are threatened, they somehow break their own toe bones, which they then push through their skin and form these sharp claws that it will use to slash predators. No other animal in the world does this weird thing except for this hairy frog. Unlike Wolverine in the comics, this claw does not then retract back into its toe, but rather it kind of has to heal its broken bone afterwards, which is kind of a huge inconvenience. So the males of these frogs will produce this hair-like skin on their thighs that help boost their oxygen intake, where they get the name hairy frog. This increased breathing ability helps them survive and breathe better in oxygen-poor water. These things are native to South Africa, where they live in fast-flowing streams in tropical forests, which seems very fitting for such a weird creature. Largest flying mammal. So this is the giant golden crown flying fox. It is the largest bat in the world, having a wingspan of up to 5.5 feet wide. They are so big that they are often referred to as the human-sized bat. And I mean, if you saw this thing in the wild, I totally understand why someone would mistake this thing for some sort of horrible demonic creature. This thing has a very strange dog-looking face. It is found in Southeast Asia, in countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines, where it exclusively eats fruit, which is kind of a great thing, because if this thing drank blood like other bats, I would be very scared, honestly. So its massive wingspan allows it to travel at up to 54 miles in a single night when it's foraging, and unlike most bats, it doesn't have any ability to use echolocation, so it compensates by using its huge eyes and excellent eyesight. Their massive size and unusual face has led these things to being mistaken for this cryptid called the aswang, which is this creepy looking vampire like figure in Filipino folklore that is like this lady thing that is like human sized. That's basically a bat lady hybrid. So you could see where these two things come together. If you were only catching glimpses of like a human-sized bat thing flying through the sky and you never saw them up close, why not a swang? Human bat hybrid. Next up, we have the narwhal. Narwhals are such cool animals. So these are real Arctic whales that actually do exist. I know some people don't believe they exist, but they look like a cross between a whale and a unicorn because of their long spiral tusk. This tusk is actually a modified canine tooth that grows through their upper lip, and it can reach the size of like 10 feet long.
there's supposed to be a grenade box up here, bruh. I need an electric drill. I need an electric drill.
And what's crazy is this thing is a sensory organ. This tooth is packed with millions of nerve endings, and it's able to detect changes in water temperature, pressure changes, and nearby prey. It then can use this tusk to stun fish with a tap, not impaling it like a spear, but rather just hitting it. And sometimes it's rare, but males can grow 2 tusks, and some might not even have a tusk at all. But narwhals can be pretty big. They can reach 13 to 18 feet long and weigh 18 to 3,500 pounds, and they only live in Arctic waters near Canada, Greenland, Norway, and Russia. They travel in pods of about 10 to 20 of them, but sometimes they gather in these groups of hundreds. What's also cool is they live up to 90 years old, making them one of the longest lived whales on the planet. What I think is really funny about narwhals is during medieval Europe, they used to sell narwhal tusks as unicorn horns that was believed to have like magic powers. Queen Elizabeth was actually reported to have paid the equivalent of $2.7 million for 1 tusk to add to the crown jewels back in the day. And another cool thing is the name narwhal actually comes from the Norwegian word for corpse whale, and that is because whenever they saw them, they saw their white spots that were on their skin, and they made the assumption that they looked like corpses, like whenever sailors would drown in the water, they would end up looking like this. Alright, moving on to Komodo dragon. So this is the world's largest lizard, being able to grow up to 10 feet long and weighing over 300 pounds. Its saliva contains over 50 types of toxic bacteria and also actual venom that lowers blood pressure and prevents blood clotting, which essentially makes their prey bleed out. This lets them slowly kill prey many times their size, and as they get older, they go after larger prey like deer, monkeys, pigs, and they're actually even known to gather in groups to take down large prey such as water buffalo, which is insane because water buffalo are so large. It can eat about 80% of its own body weight in a single meal, swallowing large chunks whole, including bones and hooves, and it's able to swallow a whole bunch of food because of its ultra flexible skull and expandable stomach. It also hunts using its sense of smell, which is this forked tongue that it uses to taste the air. People like to compare smells like a bloodhound, and they say this allows them to track wounded prey for miles, but its sense of smell is not quite as strong as a bloodhound, but it's still very impressive. It's said that the scent of blood sends them into an aggressive feeding frenzy to the point where they actually become dangerous to people, so much so that whenever women are on their period, they're advised not to enter dragon territory. What's really crazy is female Komodo dragons can actually reproduce without a male. They go through this process called parthenogenesis, where they lay fertile eggs that hatch into exact genetic copies of themselves. However, these exact genetic copies are only male. They're not able to reproduce by themselves and create a female. Once they are born, young dragons spend the first few years of their life in treetops because adult Komodo dragons are actually cannibals, and if they get found, they'll get eaten. Moving on to tier 3, we have the shoebill. So the shoebill is this crazy dinosaur looking 4.5 foot tall stork from Africa. Despite being really menacing looking, they actually are really menacing. These things do this unique hunting technique called collapsing, where they will stand motionless for extended periods of time, where they then suddenly lunge forward with their large bill and ambush their prey, such as fish and snakes and lizards and sometimes baby crocodiles. Their bill is the shape of this shoe that has sharp edges that can catch and decapitate prey, and they can also use their beak to do this crazy machine gun sounding mating call, which is really cool. Also on par with how I would imagine these things are, they are solitary creatures that rarely tolerate other shoebills nearby, and they also poop on their legs to stay cool. So I don't know why I added that in there, but they'll poop on themselves because they get really hot and they gotta stay cool. So I'm gonna say it 3 times. All right, flying snake. So these snakes fly more like glide, by launching themselves from branches and then flattening their bodies into this hollow C shape where they do this wave motion and it can glide them up to 328 feet. This is almost the length of a football field if you're from America, which is actually further than many flying squirrels can do, which is crazy. There are 5 species of flying snakes that live in Southeast Asia, including the paradise tree snake, the golden tree snake, the banded flying snake, the Moluccan flying snake, and the Sri Lanka flying snake. Imagine walking through the forest and then you see a snake flying towards you and kind of like slithering through the air. I would immediately leave that part of the world and never go back. I mean, if you're dealing with that, oh my gosh, that is horrible. Moving on to the cave crocodile. So cave crocodiles are these weird, bright, tiny crocodiles that live in caves and eat bats. Deep in the Abanda cave system in Gabon, which is on the west coast of Africa, there is this unique population of dwarf crocodile that is nearly blind due to living in total darkness, that was found there living in these caves surrounded by horrible fumes created from wet, hot guano, which is bat poop, that covers the cave floor. This poop actually turns their skin this crazy looking bright orange color due to high levels of ammonia. They've survived. Instead of eating fish like other crocodiles, they eat bats, crickets, and other cave-dwelling creatures. And what's really cool is these things have been so isolated in these caves that they have diverged from most other species and have all these weird adaptations, like being really small, obviously, and not having to see very much, and also eating bats, which you shouldn't do as a human because of the thing that happened in the place, if you know what I mean. Giraffe gazelle. So the official name of this creature is the Gerenuk. It is a lesser known species of antelope that have these really strange long necks, and sometimes you'll see pictures of them standing up and eating vegetation higher up on a tree using their long necks, and they kind of look like what I would imagine a skinwalker looks like. But anyways, these things are native to the Horn of Africa and other drier parts of East Africa, where they have adapted this ability to reach high up in the acacia trees, like I said, standing up on their legs and using their long necks. What's funny is scientists were studying the Gerenuks and they were following them around for weeks, and they never saw them drink water. And so they realized that they actually didn't need to directly drink water, but rather they got all the moisture they needed from the plants that they ate, which is really crazy. The blue dragon. So this is a really cool looking bright blue sea slug that is actually pretty dangerous. The slug itself is not venomous. It only becomes that way after it eats something like the Portuguese man of war, which is this venomous jellyfish-like creature. It then stores the man of war's venom in its stinging cells, making its own sting even more potent and dangerous than the man of war. Anyways, you can find these things around the world floating upside down in the ocean, and they're actually considered pretty dangerous. Tier 4, the lowland streaked tenric. So the tenric is this small mammal that kind of looks like a hedgehog mixed with a bumblebee. It is covered in these yellow and black quills and only found in Madagascar, which seems fitting for such a weird looking creature. They're actually the only mammals in the world that communicate by stridulating, which means they rub parts of their body together to make sound to communicate. The sound is really cool. They rub their quills together to make a high-pitched ultrasonic ultrasound chirp, and also they have their porcupine-like quills on their heads that they use and they like headbutt predators to defend themselves, which is awesome. It's super cool to see an animal that doesn't have horns that is just headbutting things with very little protection. I think that's hilarious. Moving on to the kiwi. So this is one of my favorite animals on this entire iceberg. This thing is awesome. This is an extremely strange flightless bird that is found in New Zealand that only runs around on the ground and has these feathers that are like fur. They're shaggy, hair-like feathers that resemble a mammal's fur. They have long beaks like a hummingbird. And while these things are really cute and small, they're actually related to other birds that can't fly, like the ostrich and the very dangerous cassowary, which I'll talk about here in a second. Except the kiwi didn't get any of the defense mechanisms that those birds have. Rather, they are harmless and they have basically no way to protect themselves at all. And also they can't fly, which is probably pretty bad for their population. So this thing has nostrils on the tips of their beak. They're the only bird in the world that has this feature, and it hunts by smelling. Probably the strangest thing about the kiwi is that they lay an egg that is 25% of their body weight. It is so big that it literally pushes their organs around and bends their rib bones so that it can accommodate the space that it's in. This is actually the equivalent of a human giving birth to a 5-year-old child. This is massive. Anyways, these things are so funny. They run around on the ground, and whenever they fight each other, they're just kicking each other in the chest. And the best thing about them is that they have this roar that sounds like a dinosaur, which honestly makes them even more ridiculous. They turn their heads up and they roar, and they kind of look like a theropod dinosaur doing this, and I love them for this, and this makes them so much more epic. They can actually live 50 to 60 years, and they mate for life like penguins. And another cool thing is the kiwi bird is not named after the fruit, but rather the fruit is named after the kiwi bird because they look so similar, as they both have brown fur and they're round. They are pretty round. The Pacific black dragon. So this is a deep sea fish that is arguably the world's blackest animal. It has these scales that absorb 99.5% of the light that reaches it. And they're really weird because the females can grow 2 feet long. And they have these huge scary jaws that are like fangs. But the males are tiny at just a few inches, and they don't have teeth or even a functional stomach, and they're found at 6,500 feet deep. They use this glowing bioluminescence in their body to lure prey in, and because they are so deep, they are rarely observed alive. So we really don't know much about them other than that. The golden langur monkey. So this is an old world monkey that was discovered relatively recently in 1953 in a small region of India. This is one of the world's oldest primates. There's an estimated only 4,000 of them in the world. They spend nearly their entire lives in the tree canopy, where they rarely descend to the ground. There's this famous video of one of them, like close up, and its eyes look so crazy. It looks extremely human-like. In the video, you can see it avoiding eye contact. As some researchers say, they specifically work hard to avoid human interaction. So maybe, just like humans, they are experiencing like an uncanny valley feeling, where they see humans and they look almost similar to them, but not quite the same. And honestly, if you look at them, I feel like you can kind of feel that uncanny valley effect as well, because these monkeys are so human looking. The goblin shark. So this is a shark that is really strange looking. It has this long protruding snout in front of its mouth that makes it look like it can't even bite or eat anything. These things hunt at 4,000 feet deep, where they just absolutely launch their mouth out of their face. Like they physically thrust their jaws 3 inches out of their mouth. It bounces out of their face and it bites whatever prey they're trying to get, and that's super weird. You know what? It's a goblin. I agree. It is the goblin shark. It goes goblin mode. It bounces that thing out there and eats what it's trying to eat. Anyways, these things get pretty big. They're like 12 feet long, and they can be 460 pounds, and that's all I know about them. Tier 5, the most dangerous bird. So the most dangerous bird is obviously the southern cassowary. They're basically, in real life, velociraptors. They're considered the most dangerous bird in the world, and they are considered to be the closest link between dinosaurs and modern birds. So these things are large, flightless birds that can be almost 6 feet tall and weigh around 120 pounds. They have blue faces and this crazy crest on their head that makes them look like a dinosaur. And they also make this scary noise. They can run at up to 30 miles per hour and kick super hard, which wouldn't be that dangerous if it didn't have this sharp dagger-like claw in the middle of its foot that can grow up to 5 inches long, and at least 2 people have been killed by them in recent times. Steve Irwin, there was this famous saying where he used to have one, and they called it Stomp because they said it always tried to stomp on him and kick him. And there's this famous video of him running from the southern cassowary where he has to jump over the fence and it's constantly kicking at him, and it looks horrifying. If he got stabbed by that dagger, he could literally die. Kind of crazy. This dude, he's a real one. Steve Irwin was a real one. They didn't call him the crocodile hunter for nothing. Living nesting dolls. So to summarize this without going too deep, there is this flatworm called the Gyrodactylus. It sometimes exhibits this extremely rare phenomenon where it gets pregnant with a baby that is already pregnant, creating these nesting dolls or Russian stacking dolls with, one animal inside of another, and it's really weird. And that's about all. Do you guys really want to hear much about flatworms? I don't think so. Let's move on. Axolotl. Axolotls are very cool. I actually know someone who has a pet axolotl, and it is a really cool animal. So these things are not just in Minecraft. They actually do exist in real life. They are an amphibian that live exclusively in freshwater areas of Mexico City's lake, Xochimilco. They are very famous for having this ability to regenerate lost limbs and even parts of their brain and heart. They can actually regenerate the same limb up to 5 times. Do not ask how they got that number. Axolotls usually stay in the juvenile form or larva stage of their entire lives. But in rare instances, they undergo this metamorphosis process where they transform into a land-dwelling salamander. And it's really weird because they go from looking like this pink, really cool looking creature to this jet black salamander, and they lose their ability to breathe underwater. And it would really suck if you had a pet axolotl and it turned into just a black salamander that can't breathe underwater. And anyways, this is very unusual. They usually stay in their larval stage where they're able to reproduce and live like this, and they can live for 20 years, which is crazy. The eye. So the eye is considered to be the strangest primate in the world. It is a lemur that lives in Madagascar, has these large eyes and rodent-like teeth that never stop growing, and they have bat-like ears. They're the largest nocturnal primate in the world, and they have this really weird thing where they have a normal hand, but its middle finger looks like a skeleton that it uses this freaky finger to tap on trees and then reach in and extract insects to eat. And because of this, it is the only primate known to hunt using echolocation, like tapping. Also, if you've seen the movie Madagascar, Maurice in that movie is based off of this animal, the eye. World's longest animal. So this is a lion's mane jellyfish. The longest known lion's mane jellyfish had tentacles that were 120 feet long, making it the single longest animal on the planet. Here in a second, I'm about to talk about another animal that some would consider the longest, but it's not like a single animal. Anyways, these lion mane jellyfish have this top bell shape that can be 8 feet across. They prefer living in the boreal waters of the Arctic, North Atlantic, and North Pacific Oceans, where they use their stinging cells to paralyze small prey like plankton and fish to eat. Despite their size, these things only live about 1 year, which is a really short lifespan for an animal this massive. They are mostly solitary creatures, but sometimes they can be seen in large groups called swarms. Tier 6. Echidna. So this is one of only 2 egg-laying mammals in the world, along with the platypus. This is a very strange creature that has quills like a porcupine, a beak that looks similar to a bird, and eggs like a reptile. Baby echidnas, called puggles, hatch from these leathery eggs after 10 days and then drink milk that oozes from patches on the mother's belly, because just like the platypus, they don't have nipples, so the milk just kind of comes out that way. Echidnas have this weird thing where they can detect electric signals from their prey like ants and termites, and probably the weirdest thing about them is there is this mating ritual that they do where the male echidna all line up behind the female nose to tail, forming these long trains of up to 10 echidna sometimes, and they follow the female around until she is finally ready to mate. The males then dig a trench in the ground around the female, where the males then compete in this mating ritual where they push each other out of the trench, and the last one remaining in it gets to mate with the female. It's so crazy. I don't know how anybody figured this out. I guess, you know, if you see them all following each other around, you'd watch them and be like, oh. But it seems like such like a formal ritual that they are doing. And this animal is already really weird. Why is it acting so weird too, you know? Bro is doing too much, honestly. No, it's super cool. Super cool animal. Barking deer. So these things are called muntjac deer. They are these really alien looking deers that have these face glands that look like nostrils that the deer can open up and turn inside out for communication and courtship. They are a miniature deer species native to Asia. The males have short antlers and these elongated canine teeth that they use in territorial fights that look so crazy. They're basically deer with fangs. They do not look like they should exist. But they're nicknamed the barking deer because they make this loud dog-like bark whenever they're alarmed. And we got alien looking deer with vampire teeth that barks like a deer. They're still out there. They still exist. It's not too late. They should still exist. I'm not saying to wipe them out. Don't wipe out an entire species. What's that called? Species side? Moving on. Giant siphonophore. So this is the longest animal on the planet if you count multiple animals joining together to create a colony organism. So back in 2020, this team of scientists off the coast of West Australia, of course it was off Australia, discovered this animal that was so big that it shattered the world record for the longest animal by a lot. They found this crazy looking spiral shaped animal called a siphonophore, where normally the colonies of these species measure like 10 feet long, but they found this one that's total length was roughly 390 feet long. Although it was impossible to measure the exact length of this thing, they had to guess, and they estimated it was like 390 feet long, which is... that's so big, that's massive. Massive. Massive? It's massive. What's really cool about these things is they are a permanent colony of smaller individual animals called zooids, which are kind of similar to jellyfish. When they all get together, they have different functions as part of one large creature. Like some of them just focus on reproduction. Others just focus on defense or propelling them through the water or just eating. And it's so crazy. I would probably say these count as one animal, so this is technically like the longest animal in the world, but it's so crazy. This is so alien-like. We're always looking up into space looking for aliens all the time, when if we just look into the ocean we will see something so weird. What the actual heck? These are so weird. Next on this list we have the colugo. So the colugo is this living kite-shaped thing that lives in the tropical forest of Southeast Asia. These things are so weird that scientists didn't know what to classify it as. At first they thought it was some sort of messed up bat, and then they named it a flying lemur and called it that for decades, and then they confused it with gliding rodents like the flying squirrel. But more recent genetic studies have showed the closest living relatives to these things are primates, but they are still not fully understood because they're nocturnal, they don't have opposable thumbs, and they're slow climbers, but they have a pouch like a marsupial, and what's really weird is they're barely able to even walk. They have to hop around in these short hops whenever they're moving around on land. Also, I guess I forgot to mention it, these things can like fly and glide. Yeah, they'll like cling to the side of trees and jump off and glide. Did you guys know these existed? I feel like nobody talks about colugos. You're welcome. Curse knowledge. Boom! Curse knowledge. Next on this list we have the telescope fish. So this is a strange deep sea predator that almost looks kind of humanoid like. It's a fish with wide eyes and sharp teeth. It's found at up to 9,000 feet deep, where it uses these weird white eyes to spot glowing prey. It also can unhinge its jaw like a snake and swallow prey even larger than itself. So it makes me happy that these things are not super big. These things are found worldwide all over the ocean, but they're almost never seen alive. Other than that, like I said before, it's a super deep creature, so we don't know much about it. Tier 7, Raccoon Dog. So this is actually not a raccoon at all, but it is rather a primitive canine that can climb trees, and it's the only true canine that hibernates in the winter. These raccoon dogs are native to East Asia and have this masked face that looks identical to a raccoon, which makes them really cool looking. When they're threatened, they sometimes play dead so convincingly that predators just walk away from them. And man, they are so cool. I was watching videos of them. I thought maybe because they climb trees, they would kind of act and like move around like a raccoon. But really, they kind of just move like a very nimble dog. And yeah, raccoon dog. Super cool. Apparently you cannot have them as pets because they will just constantly try to get out. And if they do get out, they reproduce super fast and they can like adjust to anywhere they go. So they'd be an invasive species that would just take over an area really quick. But you know what? I love them for that, and I think they're really cool. Antarctic scale worm. So this is a horrible looking deep sea creature found in cold water around Antarctica. They have a shimmering golden mane that makes them look like a creature from another planet, and also these massive jaws, and I hate them. They can grow up to 8 inches long, and their teeth are specifically for eating meat. Do they need to exist? Probably not. Would anybody notice if they went missing? I bet you my buddy Tyler could fish them all out of the water and take care of them real quick. Do you guys you guys fish? Do you not fish, or you guys more of like trout fishermen or crappie guys? Dude, imagine you're bass fishing and you pulled a freaking 8-inch long alien fish with gold fur out, and then you're like, how the heck do I get this off my hook? You know what I'm saying? Next up, we got the platypus. So this is a mammal that lays eggs. The only other animal that does this is the echidna. The platypus doesn't have a stomach, so food passes directly from its esophagus straight into its intestines, which I don't know how that worked exactly. But the males have these venomous spurs on their heels that cause excruciating pain, and they're toxic. And they have bills kind of like a bird that are not just for feeding, but they contain electroreceptors that can detect prey movement, kind of like the echidna as well. These electroreceptors in their beak allow them to hunt underwater with their eyes, ears, and nose closed. Female platypus will dig tunnels 30 feet long next to riverbanks where they nest and lay eggs. And once they hatch, they also have no nipples. So when they produce milk, it comes out straight through their skin, and it kind of looks like they're just like sweating milk. What's really insane is these things were discovered in the 1700s, and
you are joking me. What? Oh my god, dude, I fucking suck! Oh, I was trying to fucking do something. God damn it! Oh my god, dude, I can't aim to save my fucking life. And there's fucking grenades, dude. They fucking just bounce right on. God damn it, bro. Oh my god, both of them. Both of them. He deserves that shit. He deserves all that. I'm so dog water. Holy shit. Wow, dude. That's can't get any worse than that. For real. Where'd I get this from? I would have killed him if the fucking grenades didn't just bounce right the fuck back to me, dude. God damn it, I need to like practice fucking throwing grenades or something. Jesus Christ. Oh, damn. Like I can't even be mad because I'm so ass. He didn't have a backpack or anything too, dude. What a come up for him. What a come up. Nice, I don't have any space. I don't fuck you. No space in your stand. No space in your stand. Sorry, there's no space in your stand. Actually, embarrassingly horrible. He deserves it all. Like, god damn, I can't just line up and get a fucking headshot. Like, save my fucking life. All I need to do, literally, let him run all the way the fuck over to me.
And whenever scientists in Europe got a hold of these specimens, they thought they were just a hoax stitched together. They believed they had the bills from ducks sewed onto the body of another animal like an otter or a mole, but eventually they realized that it was real. They exist, and I'm happy they exist. Also, they glow greenish under UV light, so Phineas and Ferb got it right. Perry the platypus is green, and so are regular platypuses if you put UV light on them. Mystery of Face Totecta. So to summarize, without going too deep into this one as well, this is one of marine biology's greatest enigmas. Face Totecta is this type of crustacean. So it's like a crab or a shrimp or like a cephalopod. Despite being studied since the 1800s, it has an unknown identity as they have never found an adult version of this creature. Its life cycle is completely unknown. Moving on to the big fin squid. Also known as the Magnapena squid, this is one of the most mysterious and horrifying alien-looking creatures on the face of the earth. These things are known for their extraordinarily long limbs and tentacles that sit at like a 90-degree angle, giving them a ghostly alien appearance. No adult specimen has ever been collected. The only known pictures of them come from deep sea.
Like, I really need to work on my fucking headshots, dude. Like,
scientists
I'm just too good at shooting the body where all the fucking
what
armor
they
is.
eat, or how many species of them exist. What we do know is
Fucking
they are
ridiculous,
sighted
dude. I had to
super
jump
deep,
on him and
sometimes
everything.
up to 20,000 feet deep, which makes them the only squid to inhabit this zone in the ocean. And, you know, as this is one of the least accessible habitats on Earth because of crushing pressure, freezing temperatures.
Also told myself I was gonna stop fucking peeking, pushing like that. Like, all I had to do was sit back and wait for him. That's all I had to do.
Bend like an elbow, and these tentacles can be 20 times longer than their own body, making them 26 feet long. And it appears that they drag these tentacles or arms along the seafloor like a net to trap prey. So far, only 20 sightings of this thing has ever been recorded, making it one of the rarest observed cephalopods ever. Except for the kraken. The kraken would probably be the least modern day documented cephalopod because the kraken is real, and we need to start writing it down again because I know people are seeing it, they're probably just not documenting it. You guys can agree with me, right? Moving on to the final tier, tier 8, Amazon river dolphins. So I put this one so far down because I personally thought these things were extremely weird and kind of unreal and kind of grotesque. Amazon river dolphins are these eerie looking freshwater mammals that are native to the rivers in South America, particularly the Amazon and Orinoco basins. They have this distinctive appearance where they have these long snouts and kind of bulbous foreheads, and also different from other dolphins, they have a flexible neck that they can use to look around, which allows them to navigate and hunt in the complex rivers and flooded forests
I'm already in a game.
Amazon. They can be pretty large. The males can get up to 9 feet long and weigh as much as 400 pounds, and they have this distinctive pink coloration that kind of varies from a dull gray color to a more vibrant.
Alright, I'm gonna stop fucking around and being a pussy, dude. This is pissing me off. I spawned in the same exact spot as last time. Just lost the fucking night vision goggles I spent $700 on. Boss. Didn't even throw a grenade for shit. Damn, I see somebody's tracers going fucking hella far. was already at Kiva. Why don't I get those types of spawns? All I need is a drill, dude. That's all I need. Oh, I don't need a motor. I need a drill. Oh my bruh. Come on, really? Come on. to grab my fucking chicken nuggies. Oh my fucking god, dude. Come on. Was it a scav that I shot at? What is this? Packer? That's it. I hate that you can't fucking search shit like that anymore. Oh, the Glock.
Блять, берсащими!
Using my BT bullets on scavs like a boss. I just need one electric drill, bruh. I know that there's a shit ton. I know there's a shit ton of fucking toolboxes over here. At least, let's see if we get lucky. No drill here. Of course, that one didn't spawn right there. One over here at least. Nope. One over here. Nope. Ooh, green battery, I'll take the green battery. Come on, bro, just one, just give me one. No. Oh, oh my, another fucking headset out of this goddamn boxes, bro? You gotta be kidding me. Why? It's getting ridiculous. That is actually ridiculous. Come on, come on. No, no. It's literally gonna be impossible to find this girl, I just know it. I knew it. I knew I should have grabbed the fucking million that I found before I actually needed them. Fucking knew it. Why? Why? Oh my god. My god, and I got fucking railway exfil, dude. Can it get any worse? This thing had a full mag. I just wasted it because I fucking suck. I'm gonna kill myself. Maybe he has a drill on him. Drill, drill, drill. No drill. No drill. Sadness and pain. There could be a drill on one of these shelves. Possibility. These things are possible. Master tool set. No, I want the other 4-slot item, please. Bro, I think I've hit fucking almost every toolbox in this goddamn store already. Bye. Fucking shitty ass Razer headset, bro. Please, please, please. Nigga. Nice, nice. Actually gone through 10 of them, bro. Like, actually 10 of them. Mm. Not fair, not fair. I'm gonna have that grenade, bro. I can't throw grenades for shit anyway. I can't fucking throw a grenade to save my goddamn motherfucking life. Literally. Oh, man, come on. Give me a drill, bruh. Just give me a drill, bruh. Not one. I don't see one on these shelves. Come on. Come on. God damn it. Universe fucking hates me, bro. What do you mean I didn't grab it? Like, fucking holy shit. Drill, 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 drill. Oh, no. Goddamn fuel can, bro. God damn it, nigga. Fuck. I got so much shit, there's nothing I want to throw away if I get the goddamn fucking drill, bro. I mean, if I did find one, I'd have to, but like, still, come the fuck. I'm too heavy too now. I'm too heavy. I can't even fucking gain stamina anymore. God damn it. God fucking damn it. Please, please tell me the vehicle extract is here, please. Maybe. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on. Come on. God damn it. At least the vehicle extract. Please, please. God damn it, bro. Oh my fucking god, nigga. Can't wait to die on my way to the fucking extract. That'll be even more awesome, bro. I cannot wait for that. How is my strength not high enough yet to have fucking to be able to carry this shit, dude? Is it the shotgun? I'll fucking get rid of the shotgun. Does that help at all? Oh, it does. Okay. Fuck the shotgun. I'd love to be able to make it to the extract and not die at the very end. I get to come out with this shitty kit, but I can't come out with the fucking the other thing that I had, a fucking T30 backpack, night vision, my fucking big ass SKS, and fucking a whole ass fucking rig inside my backpack, and another good rig because I fucking just couldn't hit a shot. I love that. Yeah, so good. So good, so awesome, so very cool. Oh yeah, so very cool, yeah. Damn, bro, I've been gaining a fuck ton of weight too.
Intelligent like other dogs.
Oh yeah.
I just saw the trend of people like flipping the camera on people. That's so rude. That was so mean. Like, I can't believe people do that. Like, that's so mean.
Why the would you want to literally put somebody else in a position where they're being made fun of? They're the butt of a joke that everybody is in on except for them.
Bullying isn't like this you see on TV. It isn't someone getting stuffed into a locker. It isn't someone tagging stuff into a toilet. Most of the bullying in real life is like this flip the camera trend.
We all know bullying isn't new.
Oh my god, shut the fuck up.
Expert guidance. Ooh. Uncensored.
Yes, on Monday I'll be doing a show.
I will warn you, Piers Morgan Uncensored is rather censored. I don't know.
In what way? How do you mean?
Well, he challenged me to use the N-word on the show, and I did it 3 times, stuck the landing in front of Mark Lamont Hill. They just skimmed past it and then edited it out afterwards.
So no N-word, huh? All right, I'll have to keep that in mind.
Right.
I'll try not to use it.
If he asks you, well, would you say it, or he challenges you, and you do, he pulls a magic trick where people don't hear it.
I'll have to record it on my end. I'll just blast off. Maybe if I say it loud enough, they'll just play it anyway.
Well, I actually did that one time, so we can give you some tips. I had a buzzer every time someone would interrupt, and he edited out the buzzer. Not him, his producers. But, Nick, I appreciate you being here, man. You know, right now it's a weird time where people are trying to tell folks they can't actually have conversations, no matter how much you agree, disagree. So if it's, I'd like to kind of set what my expectations are, because I did hear that you said you hope this would be friendly. That's my goal, too. First thing I will say, we got into it with Jillian Michaels. I did, I should say, this week, where she was demanding people disavow, and I'll get to that. I hate, above all else, it's like I feel compelled to defend, no matter who it is, when jokes or statements are mischaracterized, taken out of context. I've had that happen to me. I think it's happened to you quite a bit. I don't want to do that, all right? Hopefully, I think, neither one of us does that. And I also really hate seeing gang-ups, and that's why I killed the mics. If anyone here, I really didn't like seeing what happened with Candace and Tucker, especially after you appeared with Tucker, and it seemed pretty cordial. And then he took pot shots once you were gone. I promise you, I'm not going to do that. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Okay. And what I really want to do is I want people to actually hear your views for what they actually are. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree. And some people, they'll be moved. They'll be convinced. And I want them to make up their own mind and be able to contrast it. So I asked that we're able to do that. I will also say, hey, look, I do want to thank you because, I've been subject to some concerted hit pieces myself. And you didn't join in on the dog pile. And I do appreciate that.
Yeah, got to stand up for a guy. It's bros before hoes.
Oh,
so,
yes.
So I'm with you.
No, I don't so much appreciate you implying that, I'm bringing talking points from BlackRock or the Israel lobby, considering I've been sued by BlackRock, and even Rumble had to fight back. So I think let's just make sure we take each other's opinions at face value. I don't think that you're paid for to say anything that you're saying, and I can tell you definitively that I've never taken a dime from an outside entity, nonprofit, or, foreign interest. Is that good?
Yeah, I believe you. Sounds good to me.
Okay, all right. Also, I want to make sure we can issue so we're not mischaracterized. A lot of people watching. This is the last kind of ground rule. I want to kind of address each issue point by point. I'm going to avoid point stacking or just go rapid fire because people will use that, take it out of context. People go, and Nick wiggled out of this, and they do that with me. I want no one to mischaracterize anything. So with that said, I have a couple of rapid fires, but I think you're going to like them. Okay?
Okay, yeah, sure.
These are layups, and I mean rapid fire, and then I want to give you the floor.
Sure.
Nick, I think there's some misconceptions of you. I've heard this said. Can you clear the air? Nick Fuentes, do you hate all Jews, sir?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you consider yourself an anti-Semite, a noted anti-Semite?
No.
Okay. Clears that up. Do you believe that white people are superior to all other races on the planet?
No.
Okay. Do you want to eradicate all non-whites from the United States?
No.
Okay. Well, Barry Weiss will be very happy to hear that. No doubt she's watching. And then because this happens a lot, right? It's Tucker did this with you. Fed. Nick Fuentes, are you in fact a Fed?
No.
Okay. I'm going to get through these rapid fire really quickly. They're actually, there's not much. So this week, Jillian Michaels will be on the show next week while you're doing Pierce Morgan Censored. And she said that we need to disavow you, and specifically said you had said that women either want or need to be raped. Now, I looked for this. I have not found, as a matter of prescription from you, correct me if I'm wrong, that you believe women should be raped as a matter of policy. Do I have that right?
Yeah, you're correct on that. Yes.
Okay. All right. So she's wrong. She's just an angry lesbian. Got it. Now, finally, this one might surprise people because I know you and Charlie Kirk were sort of rivals, as you've described. Been a lot of controversy floating around that, and people often say that you blame the Jews for everything. Do you believe the Jews killed Charlie Kirk? That's one of the conspiracies out there right now. What's your position on that?
I don't believe that. As it stands right now, I think it was Tyler Robinson.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, me too. And if there's something else, I hope that we find out. But I think a lot of people would just sort of toss you in that lot. Okay, I think we've cleared that up. So, look, there's some people who might be new to you here. I know you've told your story quite a few times. Some people here may not have heard your background. Tell folks out here your story. How did you come to your current positions?
Well, I appreciate the rapid-fire intro because that is my reputation. That's what people say, is that I'm pro-rape, want to kill everybody, whatever. So
I told you you'd like them.
Audience. Yeah, I did, and I appreciate the opportunity because my audience knows that, but maybe your audience might not, or other people might not. So I actually appreciate that. And as far as how I came to my views, I've told the story many times. I'll give you kind of the shorter version. And feel free to jump in or ask me questions or clarify. But I was a fairly normie conservative in high school. I was very political since I was 12 years old. And like everybody in those days, there wasn't a lot of stuff on social media, like conservative informational content. Right. And so what you had was PJ Media, you had the Hoover Institute, you had things like this. And that's kind of how I got acclimated into conservative politics. And Prager University, all that kind of stuff. And I would say that I was about as mainstream as it gets. I was pro-Israel, pro-free market, fiscal conservative, basically libertarian is what I would say about myself. And then the Trump election kind of just hit me like a train. And I had a series of realizations about the media, about immigration and demographic change in America, what the political implications would be for that in elections, but also just in society. And then obviously the biggest and most controversial one is I really love the idea of America first. Trump said that at his inaugural. He said that at the RNC. And when I heard that, I said, that's me. Like more than I'm a libertarian or even a conservative, I'm that. I'm America first. Right. I'm a nationalist. And then I just began to notice that there was always just one exception to that rule in the conservative space, and that obviously that's Israel. And I remember I knew a lot of people from Daily Wire in college. This is jumping ahead a little bit to when I was in college. I met a lot of the writers there, and some of them were Jewish and some of them were not, but they were all extremely pro-Israel. And I remember first just thinking that was weird because you had the set of talking points from PragerU, Daily Wire, whatever, and it was like, we're in favor of gun rights, low taxes, the free market, pretty standard set. And then it was always, and Israel has a right to exist, and Palestine must be destroyed. And I said, one of these things is not like the other. Like, this is clearly different, and it's conspicuous, and you never see a critical opinion on those things. And I tweeted that, I want to say 10 years ago. I said, I've never actually seen criticism of Israel on Daily Wire or PragerU. And I remember Shapiro called me an anti-Semite for saying that. And I said, how is that anti-Semitic? And what's more, I said, that reminds me of how if you criticize women or blacks or Muslims, they call you sexist, racist, Islamophobic. I said, so how's that different?
Right.
And for that, I got blacklisted, and they really made my life a living hell.
Yeah.
These people went to American Conservative Union. They got me banned from CPAC. Cabot Phillips, who was at Daily Wire now, back then he was Campus Reform. Dad is Tim Phillips at AFP. This guy was out to get me. He was, pushing hit pieces Shapiro was going around calling me an anti-Semite and blowing up hit pieces about me. And basically ever since then, I guess I've been kind of like, I consider myself like the Revenant. You know that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio where he gets like killed by a bear?
Yeah.
And then he has to fight through the wilderness. That's kind of how I feel. I was like Left 4 Dead at 18, and then I had to kind of fight to repair my reputation and like prove what I'm saying. So that's kind of the
What's crazy about that movie is the real story. The guy's actually more badass. I don't know if you've actually read about him. In real life, he sexually dominates the bear. But it's I remember that big controversy when there were a bunch of conservatives saying we're not going to go see The Revenant. There was this rumor that he was raped by the bear. I don't know if you remember that. That was a big story, and I watched it. I'm like, it's just a CGI bear. I do want to go back. So Daily Wire.
Sure.
Because I don't know if you know this. We also mentioned PJ Media. That's where I was first doing stuff in 2009 after YouTube. And like you, I grew up in Canada, so we didn't have AM radio. We didn't have Fox News. I was at Fox News for about 4.5 years, and I'd never seen anyone who was there on air. They just threw me on a panel with Alan Combs and said, debate this guy. And then it just kind of went on for a while, and I reached the end of the road. But I don't know if you know this. I've had a little bit of a, I guess you could say, turbulent history with Daily Wire myself. Not for the same reasons, but I will say this. There have been some things that I haven't talked about publicly regarding Daily Wire. People knew the contract issues, but I know you've used the term gatekeeping, and I can tell you that was something that bothered me behind the scenes too. Let me ask you this before we get to that, because it sounds like you're saying, and this is something that I kind of seen. I've kind of watched you develop a little bit, and I can understand why someone who's young, I hate to use the term lashes out. I'm not going to put you on a couch and ask about your mother, but I can understand why you'd be upset. Was this, though, when Ben Shapiro was saying that, was it before or after the sort of what he would classify as targeted harassment campaigns from the Groypers, like, bombarding his events, and a lot of conservatives were being, doxxed and swatted? I'm not holding you responsible for that, but you know that happened quite a bit. I know you've been victim to it yourself. Was his blacklisting before that, so that your sort of campaign or your fans' campaign was a response, or was it after?
It was completely before.
Okay.
So just for the timeline, it was December 2016, and I didn't start my show until February 17. So it's before I even had a show, before I was anybody, before the Groypers were even a thing. Groypers came around in 19, so it was way before.
Okay, because I did have the Groypers show up to like a comedy event. This happened a while ago, and they just sort of went away, and they were under the impression, I don't know if you said this, that I was like an open borders cuck. And it kind of fizzled out where I was like, well, no, I'm not. I think we should close the border, and I think we should deport people who are here not only illegally but have stricter immigration, period. That's not a new view for me. So, yeah, I could see, though, how people, if it was under false sort of pretense. With Daily Wire, here's what I experienced. Now, I don't know about your timeline. I know Cassie Dillon posted some receipts saying, like, this is not accurate. But I would imagine you were giving general timelines and people to sort of paint a picture, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah. With Daily Wire, what would happen is, being demonetized on YouTube, they created the new rule, borderline content, because they couldn't fully remove me. Sorry about that. It was a third rule specifically because I had a lawyer and planned for this. I would get into conversations with Google executives, people at YouTube, and especially as we got toward COVID and the vaccine, right, questioning that, or the lockdowns. I would have people very high up at Google, YouTube, say, well, we don't have these kind of problems with Daily Wire. And I said, well, I'm not. And without getting into any private information, there were conversations that took place, and that was something that really rubbed me the wrong way. It was sort of, you'll kill us last, right? And they famously bragged about spending more money on Facebook and Google than anyone else. And then there was pressure being applied from YouTube to sort of step in line. So I can corroborate that that was something I experienced behind the scenes, if that helps illuminate it at all.
Yeah, and I remember it very well. I remember the Adpocalypse, and I remember your tiff with them. I remember you going on Tim Pool. I remember the whole thing. And I've heard that even, I'm not connected, I'm not tapped in at all. I was radioactive for so long, but even I had heard rumors that they had made deals with Google behind the scenes or Facebook, and it's well known they were like the number 2 advertiser on Facebook, like number 2 overall,
right.
not like among conservatives, period, for many years. And so, even notwithstanding the Israel stuff, nobody knows the fact that they were kind of the beneficiaries of a monopoly, in the sense that like all their competition got banned. Anybody that was dissident, anybody that was controversial, basically was no platformed, not deplatformed, no platformed.
Yeah.
And I think you got caught up in that as well. I remember it pretty well.
Well, their contracts require it. And by the way, I was never the one to release. Just to be clear, there are some people there who I'm friends with. Jeremy Boring was never one of them. The contracts necessitated it, right? Where they would penalize their own creators. I believe it was 25% for the first YouTube suspension, 15% more, another 50. If you read the contract, 15% for Facebook suspension. And so my issue wasn't the money. My issue was like, well, first off, this would be 110% penalties for me because I'm literally suspended from all these places right now. But this is de facto doing the bidding of big tech. And that's the reason for it. I didn't like being put in that position, but yeah, so I can understand it. I can understand why a young guy would feel betrayed or feel hung out to dry. And I think that might explain it quite a bit, even if we disagree with your views. Like I told Ben Shapiro in 2016, 2017, I don't think we should be giving any money to Israel. Now, unlike you, I support them over Hamas morally, but I think we should stop funding all sides of the war in the Middle East. And hopefully you find that a reasonable position, whether you agree with it or not. I don't think that's extreme. And Ben didn't seem all too bothered by it. But I also invited him to be on the show, and he was going to, and he disappeared. But I just saw him on with Don Lemon and David Pakman. So I guess they're not so abhorrent.
That's interesting. So he agreed to come on, but then he canceled?
Yeah, it was just sort of informal, by text. And then I just haven't heard back from him. He's been on the show many times. So I'll give you credit, Nick. Candace, Tucker, Ben, Mark, everyone invited on. You're the only one with the balls to show up. I have to give you kudos for that.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate, even though you didn't call me out, I saw the clip.
Well,
I was like, where's my
I knew you would
call-out?
show up. You're like the candy man. I say your name 3 times in the camera, you'll show up. No, but we did reach out. I said we didn't want to because we didn't want it to be a conflict. We had already communicated, or my producer had, and I didn't want to call you out as though you were ducking. Those other people have been ducking.
Oh yeah, totally fine. No, and I'm here, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. And I think we agree on. Maybe this is going to sound like I'm kissing your ass a little bit, but I do always feel like you were less bad than all the other people in the conservative movement.
That's high praise.
Well, and I know that sounds lame, but I mean, during the Groyper War, I know that Groyper showed up to your events, and I remember thinking, like, Crowder's he's not even really bad on many of the issues, like Daily Wire, even like Turning Point was 6 years ago. They got a lot better in the intervening, maybe the past 3 years.
Yeah.
But I always think you have balls. So I think you're one of the more creditable people in the Con Inc. kind of scene.
Well, come on, don't put me in that scene. That's the thing. I'm not in that scene at all. I've been rejected by that scene just maybe not quite like you, but quite a bit. I mean, I said the N-word on Pierce Morgan. That counts for something. I will say this, though. There was a... Did you encourage the Groypers to go, or was that their own thing? That's just to clear the air.
I don't know. It was so long ago. You were not one of our major campaigns. We were really focused on Turning Point. So you might have been on the calendar. We threw together a calendar and said, these are all the speaking events in the fall. But we were really focused on Charlie Kirk more than anybody.
All right. Well, then could you give me word that you're not going to send them to like stand-up events going forward?
Well, I didn't send anybody to a stand-up thing.
Well, it was like an event, but I was just basically I was dressed like Che Guevara, like it was a Halloween. It wasn't the same kind of thing as Ben Shapiro. It might have been Brett Kavanaugh with a beer helmet. Like, it's not the same kind of show.
Sure. Yeah, no, I won't send anybody your way. Right. I promise.
Because here's a funny story before we get into it. Because the Groypers back then, they kind of had like rankings. Do you remember that? Do you remember this? Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
who could forget?
Okay. So you do remember. So I'm glad we're able to talk about this because, and by the way, we'll post all the videos and links, like references, in the description. So if we have a clip or some people can see the whole context. I believe it was at SMU, and I knew they were coming because I was posted on this calendar. And so again, the same way I infiltrated ANFA, I knew every single one of them, and I knew they had rankings. I don't remember. Maybe it was like private admiral, something like that. But here's how I kind of also, it was a little bit of a mind trick, so you'll appreciate this. It was nothing super bad. I said, okay, everyone who agrees with me, you line up on this side of the auditorium. It was like 2,500 seats. Everyone who disagrees here, we're going to go 1 and 1. And I saw all the Groypers line up, and they were supposed to go in a sequence, like private to general. The last second before we go, we have to change something in the venue, and we swapped the lines so that the wrong guy went first. And
Right.
I remember in your groups back then, or not your groups, but whatever the group at a Facebook group, one of them said, "Did you see I asked a question last night?" And they were like, "You were a stuttering, disgraceful fool. You are not amongst us." And they booted him. They drummed him out of the corps, and then it was off the list.
I remember we had generals. We didn't have. Maybe they did that on their own. We had generals, and it was sort of tongue in cheek. You know, we were a little ironic about it, but no. But I remember the tricks you guys were pulling. It was pretty, that was pretty clever. I'll give you that. It was pretty clever. That was a good counteroffensive. You know,
were tricking, and we were tricking, and the truth is, I just wanted to do some fun stuff. All right. So since we got through that, look, America first. I identify as a conservative, as a nationalist. I wear that since it became a pejorative. Like, I thought that was sort of a default thing for America. So you wouldn't hear me saying nationalist until people were like, nationalist means you're a supremacist. I'm like, well, okay, well then I'm a nationalist. Now I have to claim it because of course I want America to do best. Since you, I know, are very clearly America first, let me ask you, what do you love most about America?
Well, I love that we're a superpower. I love that because I really do believe that, when you look at the history of Western civilization, I love the idea of an empire. I love the idea of the Roman Empire, the Spanish Empire, British Empire. And I love the idea that we just have this crazy productive capacity, huge population, huge resources. I like the power of America. That's something I've really been liking a lot lately.
Okay. And of course, we don't want to take that for granted. Obviously, the power of America, like that switches in a nanosecond as far as history. Is there anything else that stands out to you aside from the power? I mean, if not, we can move on to the next.
Yeah, I mean, I love political liberty. I like the Constitution. I like our culture. I like that we're like a pan-European empire. I like that, because when you compare us to Europe, you look at Europe and it's sort of petty and small, and they're squabbling and they're fighting, between these like little towns and villages. And I like that there's just like this sense of nationhood in America between European Christian people and other people too, of course. But for the most of our history, it was mostly the Europeans. But, I mean, there's a lot of things I like about America.
Yeah, that's where I would already disagree with you because I was raised in Quebec, which is much more European, and I think Europe kind of sucks. I'm not a big.
Why?
Well, because there's far less freedom. I mean, in Quebec and a lot of these European nations, they had an enforced denominational form of Christianity, which didn't work out. That breeds atheism. I believe that Quebec is possibly the most unchurched population in the industrialized or Western world, even though Catholicism was a provincially enforced denomination. I think we're better than Europe. That's why we left. But I do understand that the founders, obviously, were largely white, Christian, European. I mean, Protestant, obviously. I know you and I, we'll quibble about that, but that is the basis here. It doesn't mean that Catholics aren't welcome. But let me ask you, what about the founding, like founding fathers? Is that something? Because I know you have opinions kind of on both sides of that, and I think they're more nuanced. But is that a big part of what you like?
I love the founding fathers. I think they're brilliant. I love George Washington. I love Hamilton. I like John Adams. I think they're remarkable people. So, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Political liberty. Can you kind of explain, I guess, that a little bit? Because that's where I know you've said that you differ with conservatives. And I don't want to mischaracterize you. I understand you've said that you're not, quote-unquote, conservative. That's not you identify as America first. So political liberty, what does that mean?
I would say I'm more reactionary than conservative. That's why I don't mean when I say I'm not conservative that I'm something else. And so... as far as political liberty goes, I like that in our country, we have a generally permissive climate. I think, of course, that's gone too far in some ways. But I do like that we have a free press. I like that we have the right to own guns. I am a capitalist. I'm not an ideological free market person, but I like that we have private property. I like we can own what we earn. And on some level, I like that we have a republic. I'm very into the idea that we have Republican sovereignty, that we have rights. They're protected by God. The Constitution respects that also.
Okay.
And I would say, because I could kind of see maybe, I don't know if you're comfortable with this, if I could go a little further here.
Sure. I mean, look, go wherever you want. And as long as you're comfortable with me disagreeing and understanding that it's meant to be fair, but I'll let you know where I do.
Yeah, because maybe I could see where you're going with this. I'm really not like a totalitarian. I don't want a police state. To the extent that people say these things about me, like you're a fascist, you're a communist, or a socialist. I'm very much not in favor of that sort of thing. I just think that, in the past 30 years, we've gone a little bit too far in the other direction. That's all. No, and I wouldn't disagree with that last part, by the way. For example, I think it's very reasonable.
Why did I just spawn
to say,
against
you know
the
what?
wall?
Maybe OnlyFans isn't a good thing. When you have libertarians going, oh yeah, if they ask for identification to prove you're of age to get pornography, the next thing you know, they're going to take your guns away. I'm like, yeah, I think that being 18 to get hardcore pornography kind of makes sense. So if addressing the hardcore libertarian sort of ideology,
cars here when
I would agree.
When I don't need it, or when I'm
if
not
it goes towards like a theocracy or something like that, which I know you've discussed, I would disagree. And look, I want to play this because, of course, everyone's going to ask me to ask you this about the Tucker Stalin clip. So what I want to do is play it, and then I know that you've already explained it more recently. I want to play a longer clip in context and then give you the floor, because otherwise people say, why did he softball him, and not ask about Stalin. Here's the clip for those who haven't seen it from Tucker.
No way.
Like mid-December, late December. It's actually funny. It was December 18th. I remember because that's an important date to me. And
we're out of here.
It's Joseph Stalin's birthday. Oh, I'm a fan.
You're a fan of Stalin.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was an admirer, but we don't need to go into that.
Well, that's okay. Let's get back. We'll circle back to that.
And then he called you a gay fed. No, I'm kidding, but pretty much that's what he did. People are mad at him for softballing. I think he didn't. I think that would be fair to press. I just think he was fundamentally dishonest in a lot of ways, because the second you left, it was a different Tucker again. Is that a fair assessment? I was kind of surprised. Yeah, 100%. And, I had the same experience with Candace. I went out there because him and I had beef. Me and Tucker had been privately and then publicly beefing for years. And, he called me on the phone over the summer, and we talked a little bit, and then somebody arranged, Alex Jones was a part of it, and somebody else kind of put this together. I went out. Wait. Dinner for
Alex
3 hours.
Jones was the mediator?
He was.
You do kiss and make up. All right, come on, this is enough. I mean, I can't imagine him being the middle ground, but okay.
He's a sweet guy, he's a
teddy bear.
guy. Yeah. So he didn't want to see us fighting because he loves Tucker, he loves me. He kind of put it together for us, and so I go out there. We have dinner. We do the show, and at no point during the show or during the dinner was it really even contentious. Was there really even an explicit disagreement? We had some disagreements, but he kind of tried to avoid those. I don't think that he was very forceful or direct about those. And then I went on my show the next day and said, yeah, it was a great interview. I thought it was really nice, and we're on the same page now. And then every single interview that he has done since then, he doesn't say my name without calling me an anti-Semite. He's going and doing the circuit, and every show that he goes on, he says, Nick is really talented and this and that, but I don't agree with his anti-Semitism and Jew hatred. And I'm like, okay, so where was that during the dinner? Where was that during the show? I didn't hear that during the whole thing. I'm an anti-Semite now, and I wish he would have brought that up during the discussion, because I would have loved to discuss that or to dispute that or whatever, but it's like you said, I got a completely different Tucker after the fact in all these other shows. He's going around and telling everybody, that like it's the making of a murderer.
Right.
Like I could see why people like him, even though he's so awful.
Like you're the Averys. Yeah, you got them Jews there? Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Candace will make another show about that like 9 years later. Okay, so that's she did like something about making a murderer. I was like, this is very late. Okay, but going back to that's the clip that people say ask him about Stone, and I would have in Tucker's shoes asked you about Stone. Now I've seen you on another show explain it more recently. Now I can't play the whole clip because it'll be really long, but I want to play a longer one and then allow you to provide any missing context. I can't remember the name of this. Something Danny D, Johnny G. Play it.
Tommy G.
Tommy G. I was close.
Agree, you have some hilarious moments, but there was a moment from the Tucker Carlson interview I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
You mentioned Stalin. You're a fan of his work?
Yes.
Was that serious or a joke?
That wasn't a joke. But, it's like anything else.
I love history, and I love stories. And to me, Joseph Stalin is an extremely compelling figure. I would say more, you'd be surprised to hear this, than Hitler. Everybody pegs me as like a Hitler guy. I'll tell you, and I'm not saying this to pander, I'm not saying this, because I care about what you think of me. I really don't even know that much about Hitler. I never found Hitler to be that interesting. I think that there's narratives about Hitler that are interesting. In America, if you talk a certain way about certain issues, they say, you're a Nazi, you're Hitler. So it's interesting in that way. But for me, Stalin is the far more compelling figure. And I say that because, while everybody focuses on Hitler, Stalin is a person who takes Russia, which is the most backwards country in Europe at the beginning of the 20th century, serfs and peasants and just all around immiseration and poverty. He takes a country like this, and by the time he dies, it's a nuclear empire. It's a global superpower. It's like the most unbelievable story in the history of mankind. And so I don't think he's a good person. He's an evil person. He's one of the villains of history. But in terms of his effects, he's an effective ruler, and I think that's interesting.
Okay. Now that clip goes on, we'll make the link available. I don't want to do an interview where everyone's watching you watch you. But so with that, and I was asked about this on Piers Morgan, and again asked to condemn, Stalin. I said, look, I don't know. He could have meant. And by the way, I don't know if you have a cold. I have a halls in my throat right now. I notice everyone's a little bit sniffly. I said he could have been saying he's fascinated. Like, for example, I've been going down a rabbit hole of Stalin versus Trotsky, like how much they hate each other, which would seem odd to us because they're very similar. The spoiler alert, it's two assholes fighting. That's pretty much all it is. And I would be curious to ask him about that. So when people say disavow without having the full context, I think that's wrong. Now, that said, my question to you would be, I know that you have said we need a Catholic theocracy or a Christian theocracy. I've heard the word dictatorship. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I would ask you, since the end point seems much more similar to where Stalin reached, just swap atheism for Catholicism or Christianity, would you be able to name, or is there any one thing that you think America, like concretely, should copy about Stalin's rule or methods to get there?
Not his methods, because, like I said, he's an evil person, or a murderer, and genocidal. Arguably, with the famine, I mean, I think it's pretty clearly intentional that they were trying to kill all those people there. And so, I want to make that clear. Sometimes I feel like it's almost childish, and I'm not saying that about this interview, but just in general, when people say, "Wait, but he was a bad guy," it's like, I know he's a bad guy. Like, I know he was evil. And I suppose the thing that I find maybe more compelling about Stalin as a ruler is the way that he industrialized the country. I'm very interested in this because that is, among the other things that I talk about, a very important problem in the country is that we're deindustrialized. Yeah. And what Stalin did, and I said that in that clip and in other clips too, he takes a country that has no industry. And he literally, and with brutal, evil methods that I don't replicate, I don't support that, but he does take the country and drag it into the 21st century, and he does that by bringing in heavy industry. The 5-year plans, the collectivization of the farms, it was about prioritizing heavy industry so that they could eventually build ships and planes and tanks and, the things that they needed to fight the war. So...
But it was about seizing industry, and it was about doing it by force. I mean, secret police, the party purges, the show trials. So if you say the industrialization of the country, how do you separate that from, the only methods were largely evil, or certainly his calling card methods, right? That's where people would say, okay, if you point to him as an example, is there anything worthy of emulating other than, because you could point to other countries that industrialized, including the United States.
Well, I don't think that is necessary. I think because it starts with the idea that a country, an empire, needs industry. You need to be able to make things. We don't make things. We don't even make the machines that make things anymore. China makes all the things. And so starting from the idea where Stalin says in the 20s, He says, we're either going to do in 15 years what it would normally take us 100 years to do, or we're going to die. Our country will not exist anymore because we are encircled. And I feel like America's in sort of a similar position where we need to race ahead of China or else we are going to be destroyed. We need industry back in the country. And I don't believe in taking grain to feed the factory workers and enslaving people in gulags, but I do think the government needs to set. It's sort of like when JFK said, we're going to go to the moon in 10 years. I like the idea, this ambitious idea of we're going to catch up in 10 years. We're just going to go out there and do it. We're just going to build it. And I don't support, killing people. I don't think you need to kill people to achieve that. But I like the idea of urgency, setting targets, having a national strategy, and doing it for the sake of power projection.
Well, and I agree, by the way. Industrialization, right, is good. We went through that in America quite a bit before Russia. The reason they had to play catch up is because it was an awful place and they had to do it by force. So my question is, am I mischaracterizing? And everything that I ask is genuine here because I'm trying to see where we disagree. Because I think Stalin is a fascinating historical character. You're talking to a guy, we did the Great Diktatov, where we did brackets for 3 days of Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, Mao. Funniest one was Papa Doc in Haiti because he sucked Pinochet, who wasn't all wrong. And we were very clear about this. And I think Mao ended up winning. Might have been Pol Pot, though the number wasn't as high, but he was just really dumb and really brutal, which is a bad combination. How could you get, if we're talking about now, to Stalin's industrial results without Stalin's methods? If you want to get to a Catholic, first off, have you said Catholic theocracy? Is that, am I misquoting?
I might have said it, but I don't believe in a Catholic theocracy. I think that the government should be Christian, but not a theocracy.
Okay. Not a dictatorship either?
We might need a very powerful executive for a short amount of time. I think that's maybe unavoidable.
Okay.
But not an ideological totalitarian state, no.
So how do you get to that in the industrialization that you talk about with Stalin? How do you get it? How do you get there?
I think that you need tariffs. I think you need subsidies. I think you need a massive public works program, something like the New Deal. And I know you're probably not a fan of that because I know you're a huge free market guy, but I think that one of the things the free market doesn't do well is it doesn't allocate resources efficiently on like a long-term timeline. In a long-term timeline, America needs to have a ton of industry to be able to support its Navy, to be able to protect supply chains and trade routes. And the free market has not been able to accomplish that. So I think that the government needs to intervene in this case and basically say, like, we're not going to import these manufactured goods from China. We have to make them ourselves. We need to subsidize them. And maybe we bring people on, onto the dole of the state in a public works program to accomplish some of these things. So I believe in an intervention from the state to do that.
Well, okay. So I understand, by the way, tariffs, I understand, and especially when you look at the revenue they'll be generating, I don't think that's an infringement of the free markets. I think it's a correction of an unfair market, of a market where we've been fleeced. So I think we agree on that. Subsidies are massive public works. I mean, we have a debt. Is it 39 trillion? I haven't looked at the clock recently. So I certainly wouldn't say that we haven't been subsidizing things. We absolutely have, and we can't afford it. And the old joke, right, in Russia is they pay us to look like we're working, and we look like we're working. Like they look like they're paying us. We look like we're working. We've done this here in the States. I mean, if you go back to FDR, and maybe you're a fan of FDR's approach. Certainly Barack Obama, the biggest modern spending package. I was around for that. Shovel-ready jobs was awful. And same thing for Russia. I mean, if you throw enough bodies and human suffering at something, you can get something done. But even then, it was still significantly behind the world that was more free, the United States. So where have we not done it? Because I look at it and I go, well, we have been subsidizing almost everything. I agree with you on China. I agree with you on tariffs. I think that's a huge threat. What would that look like?
Well, I don't think we've been subsidizing industry. I'm not saying just like subsidies across the board. I mean, we need to actually subsidize and prioritize the industries that we need in the country. So like, for example, the CHIPS Act, I think that was a great thing. I don't think it was enough, and I don't think it was comprehensive, but I want more things like that. Like, there's no reason why They're doing it in Arizona. They're bringing TSMC over to Arizona. They're building a chip fabrication facility. We need that. And I think the government should give tax breaks or just straight up give subsidies to the companies that are going to do that. And I think that we need aggressive trade negotiations. I guess maybe where we differ ideologically is that I want a very smart government. I liked what Doge did. I like the idea of bringing people from the private sector into the government. And even Trump said that in 2016 to work on trade deals, to work on, for example, China steals all our intellectual property. They steal all of the developments that we have. We need people that know about technology almost in a technocratic way, like true experts guiding our trade policy, guiding in some ways our economic policy, setting a benchmark that it's like, we need like 10% of the economy or 15 or 20% of the economy to be productive in 5 or 10 years. We need to be making ports, ships, or we need to have countries in our orbit that can do it for us, like South Korea or Japan. But we just need people that are in charge that are, kind of aware of this problem. So I guess that's maybe the difference.
No, I don't think that's the difference. I can outline maybe the difference based on what you just said. I don't have a problem with tariffs. Sure. I know what you're talking about with the CHIPS Act. I agree. And I think a big problem is, absolutely, Chinese stealing intellectual property. That's why I think they're a huge threat. What I see, I mean, then you could point, though, to like American auto manufacturing, which has been abysmal. I mean, industries that have been heavily subsidized. I mean, if you look at insurance industries, pharmaceutical companies, if you look at energy companies, I mean, you remember also about Solyndra, green energy companies.
Totally.
Every company that's been heavily subsidized and regulated tends to be less efficient and it tends to be more expensive. But we do need to protect certainly things that are, I would say that chips are a matter of national security. But my thing there is, you say you like Doge. Well, I don't know why you think I would differ. That was largely, axing things. You just mentioned stuff that really for the first time has been done under this administration. And where we differ is I go, is it perfect? No. Is it a step in the right direction compared to Biden, compared to Barack Obama? Yeah. And then I know that you've also talked about having to burn it all down. So where I differ is, you said you're reactionary, or I've heard you use the term maybe accelerationist. Well, accelerate toward what? Because if that's what you want, and I agree with you, we're getting more of that than ever before. So how would you get there, and why would you burn down the progress that's being made?
Well, I'm not an accelerationist. I think that I think that's sort of misguided, because if we're, and I agree with you, accelerating towards what? That's the operative question. So that's why I'm not an accelerationist. I think that to make things worse is only basically to vote in favor of chaos and death and potentially civil war, low-level political violence. And I think you're rolling the dice with that. So I'm with you on that. As far as the Trump administration is concerned, I mean,
can I pause you?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
And I don't want to interrupt, but like I said, I want to address kind of the points individually.
No, totally. Yeah.
Feel free. Okay. And hopefully you think this is fair, because I really do want to be, and I know that I disagree with you on some fundamentals here, but you did say that Kamala Harris would be a better choice. And you did take billboards out against Donald Trump and told people not to vote in certain elections. That would be, and just maybe you didn't use the term accelerationist, but you said at least then that would sort of ignite what we need, because it's a uniparty, it's all the same, right? So I view that as accelerationism, whereas I see where we agree, where we find progress, I would argue is better than 4 years of Kamala. And I would argue that we were at the precipice of, really, we were looking at sending into the abyss 15 million on the low end illegal aliens, and not to mention the legal immigration problem. Add another 10 million with Kamala Harris, we no longer have a country, where you and I would both agree. So that's where I don't understand your position.
Yeah, well, let's sit in this for a minute. So first of all, and I just want to clarify, I know you know this, but maybe your audience doesn't. I never told people to vote for Kamala. I didn't vote for Kamala. I never told people to vote for Kamala. I didn't endorse Kamala. My plan in and again, as long as we're in good faith, I'm going to explain to you my thought process on this last year. It looked at one point like this was going to be a very contentious election, like it would be very close. It turned out not to be, and eventually it became clear that it wouldn't be. But it seemed like maybe this election would come down to one state, like Michigan or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, one of the 3 Rust Belt states. And my problem in 24 is that Trump was not promising an immigration moratorium. In fact, he was saying the opposite. he said that he would staple green cards to diplomas, which is a very famous policy. It's been around for decades, and Democrats and Republicans have said, we're going to give green cards to every foreign student. I said, that's a disaster. That's terrible. And then the other thing is there was a rumor that he had a quid pro quo arrangement with Miriam Adelson that he would allow Israel to annex the West Bank and intervene in the war with Iran. And so those were kind of my two issues. As I said, if we elect Trump, we're going to get all these Chinese and Indians. They're going to get green cards, and we're going to get H-1Bs because that's what Silicon Valley wants, and we're going to get a war with Iran. And so I looked at it this way. I said, if the America Firsters rise up and sort of tell Trump, here's the ultimatum. You can come out and say you're against the H-1Bs and the F-1 and green cards, and you could say you're not going to bring us to war in Iran, and we'll vote for you. But if you don't, we can't vote for you. And that was kind of the idea. It was like a contract with the Trump team. Now, ultimately, Trump became basically, his advantage grew to be so big that he wasn't worried about losing in one of those states. And I felt that way. I said, we don't have leverage anymore because he's leading by so much. It's clear he's going to win. And that's why we sort of abandoned it in the middle of it. But aside from, so that's where that came from.
Just to clarify, abandoned what?
Abandoned that project, the Groyper War 2, because we were going to go to Michigan and we were literally going to knock on doors and hand out leaflets and stuff. And we said, you know what, let's just not anymore because he's going to win anyway. So we bought one billboard.
You were going to knock on the doors and tell people to vote for Trump, the Groypers in Michigan?
Yeah, no, to sign on to something like a pledge that would say, we will not vote for Trump unless. That was kind of the idea. And we sort of spun that up, but we abandoned it when it became clear that he would win.
Okay. And I understand that, by the way. I understand the idea of holding the representatives accountable. I mean, that's why we have primaries. But hopefully that's part of your strategy, because a lot of people just don't run in primaries, and that's a viable option. But I do remember what caught me off guard, you saying that Kamala Harris was a better choice. And I remember part of what you said was because Trump, if he's elected, legitimizes the system. And that would be worse. You didn't want Trump to be elected because it would legitimize the system. Explain what you meant by that, because that sounds to me like you want to delegitimize and almost revolution instead of Trump.
Well, and here's the thing. I think that Trump is obviously the better president if you're just taking like all the nominal figures, like fewer illegal immigrants, he secured the border, the economy's going to be better, the government's going to be more efficient. We're in agreement on that. Here's the problem, and I try to make people think about it in these terms.
Sure.
And I don't want this to sound like a cop-out, but I'm trying to get people to think, which is that Trump gets elected, and let's think about what happens on day number 2. Whereas in 2020, everybody said the election is rigged. Like 86% of Republicans said, oh, the election was BS. Now,
it was close to half of Democrats, too, I think.
Yeah, it was substantial. It was across the board. Now nobody believes that. And whereas at one time people believed like the system really needs to be overthrown, like we really need radical change. Now they're saying, oh, Trump won. Oh, I feel relieved. Now we're okay. And look at the things that Trump has done. And we're going to get in, I can tell we're going to get into some of these things. The Epstein files, bombing Iran. And I'm not gish galloping, I'm just giving a little list of things I don't like. The H-1B visas, the 600,000 Chinese students.
Yeah.
All these things happen. And because they're happening under Trump, he is legitimizing them. And he's legitimizing the moneyed interests that are responsible for them. And I do think that deflates a lot of the fervor for change that existed before. And I just think sometimes,